So I am just coming in from the garden right now, and if it looks like I've got a fall harvest in my basket, and if it looks like fall because I am wearing flannel and gum boots, then you would be wrong. It is not. It's actually mid-August right now, and we have just had a really weird summer. All summer long we have been getting lots of rain and just kind of gray, cloudy days, and today was really windy, and I'm not really complaining because, as you can see, we are hauling in a whole bunch of goodies out of our garden all the time. Our peas have been going strong, like our cool weather crops, our broccoli, carrots are doing fantastic, our lettuce and leafy greens are doing great, but our hot weather crops like our tomatoes and peppers and things like that, they are struggling a little bit. So it's just been a really weird summer. But nevertheless, we are still hauling in tons of fresh fruits and veggies out of our garden. And usually around this time of year, the problem becomes where to put it all. So I wanted to take a few minutes today and take you on a tour of our pantry and all of our kind of food storage space, because we live in a fairly small, we're just in a small rancher on a small quarter acre. We don't have a root cellar or anything fancy as far as food storage is concerned. For now, we've kind of got to make do with what we've got.
Oh, gate's open.
Damn it. Just wait. So anyway, I am going to take you on a tour now and show you all of our food storage and where we are packing in the harvest this year. Okay, so I thought I'd take you here first since we were already outside. So I first off wanted to show you our new freezer, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing special about this. It is just your standard deep freeze, but it's a big deal for us because it means a lot more storage space for any meats or fruits or veg that we want to put in the freezer. Now, right now we just have, I've got about 30 pounds of blueberries in here, and we're gonna be moving some more stuff out here just to free up some extra space. And hopefully if the sun ever comes out and our tomatoes ever actually start ripening, what we usually do is as they come on, we freeze them. And then we wait until we have enough to do a big batch of tomato sauce or something like that, and then we'll take them out of the freezer and we will cook them down and we'll can them up. So this one we were lucky enough to pick up for free. My husband works on different job sites, and on one of the jobs he was working on, this was left behind. So we were able to snag this for free. So that's a big deal in our world. So as far as freezing goes, we do throw quite a bit of stuff in the freezer. We like to can, I like to preserve in other ways, but there's a lot of stuff that I find just lends itself better to the freezer. We tend to freeze most of our meats. We freeze a lot of our vegetables that just don't lend themselves to canning as well. Things like broccoli, or like our garlic scapes that we cut off, or just random things like that. Leafy greens, kale I throw in the freezer. And then berries, a lot of fruits and berries and things that we just like to throw in smoothies or into oatmeal and that kind of thing over the winter. Those will go in the freezer as well. So freezer number one, I'm gonna take you inside now and show you the rest. Okay, so come on in. Pardon my hands being dirty because, like I say, I just came in from the garden. So I'm gonna just give them a rinse off. Okay, so this is our kind of laundry room slash pantry area, and this is where the bulk of our food storage ends up. So first off, over here we have our kind of main freezer, which definitely needs to be defrosted. And so that having the extra freezer allows us to throw everything out there in the meantime, get this defrosted so we can free up some space in here, and then we will put, you know, anything that we use on a regular basis back in here. So you can see this is a very standard thing, I guess, to see in our freezer at this time of year are just different veggies that I have blanched and then laid out to flash freeze. And then what I'll do, so this is some cabbage, and I know you can make sauerkraut and different things, but if we're, say, making stir fries or soups or something and I just want kind of your standard cabbage without the flavor that comes with sauerkraut, stuff like that, I like to freeze it. So I will flash freeze it, and then I'll throw it in like a Ziploc bag or something like that, and it will keep for months, and then we can use it all through the winter. So we do make use of our freezer quite a bit. And then the other thing is with meat, we don't raise our own meat. but we like to try to purchase in bulk from local farmers. So I will get like 20 pounds of ground beef at a time. So once again, having a lot of freezer space is really helpful for us. But of course, there's a lot that we don't freeze or even refrigerate. And so back here, you can see we've got just these metal shelving units, and we've kind of, this space honestly was just collecting a lot of clutter over the past couple of years. I had all my mason jars in here and pressure canners and pots and pans and odds and ends of all sorts. So we realized this year that we needed the extra space for storage because I had some of our potatoes, which I have now cleared out. This is our regular pantry. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping back and forth, but this is our regular pantry. So I finally cleared it out and kind of consolidated everything. Was able to get our potatoes in here so that they're somewhere dark. Because what happened was this was all cluttered and that was all cluttered. And so I had to leave these in my office where it was getting some dappled sunlight and it started to turn the potatoes green. And when they turn green, they start to produce a toxin actually. And so they become kind of inedible. Now these aren't so far gone that I can't do something with them. I can probably cut the green off and I'll be fine. So I've stuck them in the pantry now. But we really just noticed that we needed to do some reorganization because we've already got all of like our dried goods, oatmeals, and dried fruits and all sorts of things like that in here. And then I've got all of like our flour and sugar and tubs of honey and chocolate chips and all sorts of things, pickling salt and all the kind of staples that I use either for baking or canning and stuff like that. So it's good. We've got a lot of space in here, but especially for things that were coming in like potatoes, which we're going to be bringing more in of. I didn't want them sitting somewhere where it was going to get sunlight. And same with things like our onions. Now you may have seen out by the freezer, I have some garlic out there that's curing under the lean-to, but there wasn't enough space to do the onions as well. And so the metal shelving unit has been good for curing onions for us because it allows airflow from kind of all sides. So we cleared all this off. Right now I've got them laying out and curing, and then we can braid them and hang them from here. We also have these little clips that we have hooked on here, and when we get fresh herbs, we will bring them in here and hang them. We'll tie them together and then hang them upside down and just clip them here so that they can hang from here and dry. So this is a really great space kind of in the summer when we have things coming in that need drying. You'll see I also have my dehydrator behind me. So this is the Excalibur 9-tray dehydrator. So for things like fruits and herbs and stuff like that, I can throw them in here and let that dry kind of overnight. So this has kind of become like our drying area. And then as we can up more stuff, it can kind of double as an extra space to store our canned goods and things like that. Okay, another cool thing that we did with this area was we found a way to actually get our canning bands organized. So with canning, you can reuse the jars, you can reuse the bands, you just can't reuse lids when you're canning something up. But these bands were kind of getting out of control. We had them in a bin and they were just building up, and so we went through them all, got rid of any rusty ones and kept all the good ones. And then what we did was we just strung them on just some twine and then made a knot at the end, a little loop, and then hung them on this knob here. I've just got this little board that I picked up at some craft fair or something like that. It's got these little knobs, so it's perfect. So it's a little pickling board, but you can obviously hang them on any hook or anything like that if you want. And then it just keeps them nice and organized. Every time I need a band for something, I can just pull one off like this. And anytime I'm done with one, I can just put it back on like that and hook it on. Now, the other thing that I do is I do save my lids from canning projects because I use them again if I am going to store some type of dried goods in a mason jar, or make a candle and I want to put a lid on it with a nice label or something like that. I don't use new canning lids for that because I want to save my new canning lids for my canning projects. So I do save old lids, and so I've just kind of organized them in a jar here. You'll see I've got my regular mouth lids on top and then my wide mouth on the bottom. So I've got that all organized now, and I know where it is and I can grab it at a moment's notice if I need to. Okay, so for now, because we haven't done a whole lot of canning this summer so far. Like I did 50 pounds of pickles from some cucumbers that I got. We've done some jam and a few different things, but the tomatoes we do a lot of, and then green beans we're waiting to come on as well. But right now, I'm able to fit everything in this kind of one cupboard. So this is where we store all of our canned goods, and this is just this was not meant to be a pantry. This was just some extra storage that we happen to have in here that we have converted into some more food storage. So this unfortunately doesn't slide out. It'd be much better if it did. Because this is deep, what I do is I just make sure that I rotate, so that I make sure that for example, the pickles that just went in, if there's any pickles from last year, that I bring those forward so that they get used first, and I try to line it up in rows so that I can see what I've got as much as possible and try not to bury things in the back, because as you probably know, things that end up at the back of the pantry can often get left there for longer than you may intend. Okay, so here we have another one of these metal shelving units, and these are just like, I know so many people, homesteaders especially, who love these things because they are so multi-purpose. And so what we've done here is we actually had this set up in the spring, and this was our kind of seed starting station. So we had all of our indoor grow lights set up here and all of our seedlings starting here. So it was technically meant to be temporary, but I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen because it's just great storage. So we had thought about using it for food storage in here, but because this room does get too much light, it doesn't really get direct sun. But like I say, we did have our potatoes on the bottom shelf here, and they ended up going green. So I decided not to use this for food storage and to use the one in our kind of laundry room instead, because even though we can't have like cold storage here, that is the coolest, darkest place in our house. So it makes sense to make use of that for food storage and for drying and curing things. So instead what we did was we brought everything that was there and we organized it, got rid of, you know, anything that we weren't going to use anymore, and then put it all here. So even though this isn't food storage, this is vitally important to us putting up our harvest, because as you can see, this is where I've got my pressure canner, this is where I've got kind of all of my KitchenAid attachments for making various things, stock pot, instant pot, water bath canner. Down here I've got all of my mason jars, and you know, if you can food, or if you're a homesteader in any rate and you like use mason jars for everything like we do, that when they are not being used, you also need a place to store those, and that is always just as big, if not a bigger issue than actually storing your food, I find. So this is where we've got all of our empty mason jars, and then just extra lids and pectin. Here, this is just some gardening supplies, so seeds and twine and various things like that. So this is fantastic, and this helps us out with our food storage because it gives us a space to store all this extra stuff, freeing up space to store more food and jars of stuff in the cold, dark area of our house. Okay, so that is our little pantry tour. So I know if you are working with a small space, I just want to show you, that it can be done. You can get quite a bit of food in a small area, but there are a lot of creative solutions as far as food storage goes, and I actually have a whole article on that, so I will link it below so you can check it out. Otherwise, that is our pantry tour. So if you enjoyed that, make sure you hit like and subscribe below so you never miss a video from the house and homestead.